everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan, a TV program that provides opportunities for local authors to share their journey to getting published and on their way to becoming bestsellers. Now, we all have a different definition to what happiness means to us, individually speaking, and this is one of the many reasons why we created the show. Now, if you're an aspiring author or not, this program is yours to enjoy. With us today, we have Dr. Serena Reep, the author of her upcoming book, Work-Life Balance is Dead. And she will share with us her journey to getting published, as long as with her many challenges to getting the manuscript completed and out to the public to enjoy. Now, in the past couple of days, I had the pleasure to read her draft, and I felt like her book was speaking to me in a very profound and particular way. Now, in this episode, we will discuss in more details about why work and life balance is a juggling stunt very difficult to achieve, as I, myself, suffers from the same predicament. Now, I have a lot of difficulty to manage work and family life. Hence, the reason why I feel like this book was speaking to me in a very personal way. Now, Dr. Reep, thank you so much for being here today, and I really appreciate your presence.
I'm happy to be here.
Good, good. Now, tell me about why did you decide to write a book about that specific subject?
That's a very good question to ask, because there is a story behind how this book began to come about. Of course, I have always been interested in the issue of work-life balance, but I approached it from a different way in my own personal life. But it became clear to me on a hot, muggy Baltimore summer evening when I was at work, and it was a Friday evening, like around 7 o'clock in the evening, and everybody had left work already, and I was still doing a few things there, trying to tidy up for the weekend, and I hear a knock on my door at the office, and I thought, gee, I thought everybody left, and I was the only one working there. And it turns out one of my colleagues had come back to pick up something he had forgotten at work, and he saw me working, so he knocked on the door to see if there was anything wrong, whatever. And I said, no, I'm fine. You know, I'm just going to pick up a couple of things and take care of things, and I'll be on my way. He said, get a life. He's a good friend, so I didn't take an offense to that. And he then, walked away. It just hit me at that moment, something that I have felt all my life, the ways in which I was different and the way I perceived life than what everybody else does. And this colleague of mine saying, get a life, suddenly put some very bright spotlight on this topic for me. And so that's how my journey to writing this book began, on that hot, muggy Friday afternoon in Baltimore.
That is pretty amazing. I guess this is what it needs when people they will have to be inspired about a subject to write. You felt that this one was, and it's actually a very needed subject. As I mentioned when we had the discussion before over the phone, this subject, this content or topic, you would say, is really, really a big, big challenge for the 300 million Americans, or those who actually work, to live life and work and know how to differentiate between both. Know how much time to put in work, how much time to put in life, and why are people having so much struggle with that? Why is it so much of a big, big issue that a lot of corporate companies are trying to solve that problem?
You're absolutely right, but let me correct you on one thing. It's not just the 300 million in American society, but the world over, this is a problem today. I see a lot of scholarly articles from Asia, from Latin America, from Europe, and of course North America, Canada, US, and South America. So basically, this is a universal problem, not just an American problem. It's definitely something, as the world comes closer together, and there's uniformity in the kind of lifestyle that we lead, this becoming a worldwide epidemic. It's not just an American issue anymore. Now, having said that, the reason why we are today, in the last 20 years, I would say, in the last couple of decades, particularly experiencing this problem of work-life balance, is that the technology has made things worse. While it was supposed to help us, and it does, it helps us, there's no doubt about that. And we're not here to talk about how to banish technology altogether because it's problematic or it's creating a lot of difficulties for us. But understanding where the issues of work-life balance come from certainly helps us in figuring out the directions we need to go and the things we need to do in order to address the issues. So right now, it's a very important issue, and corporations are dealing with it, individuals are dealing with it. People everywhere are asking the question, how do I achieve this ephemeral, almost difficult to achieve kind of balance between work and life? So that has become my passion, to even communicate what I have experienced, what others have experienced, what my studies indicate, as well as look for how can we as a society move toward a more balanced life.
Would you say this is the Western culture that came up with this or that created this challenge? Because if you look in Asia, Latin culture, they don't really look at work as being the primary part of their life. They think that, family is really, really important. But I think the Western culture has a lot to do with how people think about work and life.
I agree with you that the Western culture has particularly enhanced the problem, but I really don't know that just the Western culture is experiencing, or significantly more often than not, more so than not. What is happening today, as I mentioned to you in the very beginning, this has become a worldwide problem, because really in Asian societies, Latin American societies, European societies, all these are traditionally known for more laid-back kind of lifestyle, are also experiencing to a lesser or greater degree the same kinds of issues, because the pattern of work and the importance of technology on our work and our life is becoming more universal. It's no longer just the Western society. But you're absolutely right. It has made an impact, a significant difference, to the point where almost all of us from all parts of the world are looking to find an answer to this. Every one of the people that is in some way engaged in outside work is experiencing this.
Very interesting.
Tremendous issue. Yes, that is entirely true.
Now, you mentioned something about technology, and let's face it, it seems like we are coming up with new invention. It's moving at really warp speed. Now, would you say that despite the fact that technology helped communication between countries all over the world, but then at the same time, it kind of blocked communication with our family members? Because when you look at, spouse coming home, like they leave work, they come home, they go back to their computer, they go back to their tablet, their phone, and that kind of put an obstacle to the old traditional way to communicate with your wife, with your kids, and so on and so forth. Now, every kid has a cell phone at 9 years old. Where is that going to stop?
Incredibly true, absolutely. You really touched on something very, very significant, very important, something that we all face every single day. In fact, in my book, I talk about technology creating jail on wheels. Because what's happened is before, when we were at work, we were at work. When we were home, we were home. And we had an opportunity to communicate at work, face-to-face with people, and develop a sense of community there. And when we got home, we had a family, our neighbors, our community to be able to relate to the same way. Today, just like you said, we have our technology, all these ways of communicating with each other, that we forget the humanity. We forget this face-to-face relationships. We forget a sense of community. How many times have we seen in a bank line or a grocery chain, we're waiting there with our groceries or waiting there to deposit our funds, and everybody's clicking away in the line. They don't even have the time to just say hello to the one above them, in front of them or behind them, or at work for that matter. We spend texting people in the next cubicle instead of going and talking to them about whatever it is that we need to get help from them or give them an assistance or what have you. So technology has made us more aware of ways in which we do things. But take, for example, when we go on vacation, the whole point was that we can have more relaxed time. We can go on vacations more often, because if there was an emergency, people would reach us by a cell phone. We don't have to be tethered to our desk. We don't have to be
The
near a
landline, yes.
computer at all times. And so it was supposed to free us. It's supposed to make it more possible for living a better, more fulfilled, or more happy, more joyous kind of life. What has happened in reality is that we are taking our work from work to wherever we go. We're taking our other issues and problems in our everyday lives to everywhere we go. So it has only become magnified because of the technology rather than help us to alleviate the problem of work-life balance. It's created a greater issue from the technology.
So if we advance at the same rate, would you say that we will no longer communicate with people in the old traditional way?
Well, I hope not.
Okay.
But it can, if we are not aware, it can certainly happen. Because we know, in fact, there are an awful lot of comedies and jokes
parodies,
about
yes.
where somebody walks in and brings his fiancée to introduce to his friends, and all his friends are clicking away at their iPhones or their Androids or what have you, and nobody's paying attention to the fact that the gentleman brought his fiancée and as once to introduce to his housemates or roommates. So that's a very common kind of thing that is happening today, unfortunately. So we are losing our sense of humanity, we are losing our sense of ability to communicate with each other, which is causing even greater problems with work-life balance. However, ultimately, if we want to have a solution, if we want to have some way of bringing more humanity, bringing more soulfulness, more happiness, more joy into our lives, we need to find a way to demarcate how we should use technology, how we can still use and get the benefits of technology without having to sacrifice our sense of community, our sense of self, our sense of who we are as a society. It's very important. Ultimately, the tool is what the technology is, and it needs to be remembered. We all need to remember that technology is a tool. It's not the goal. It's not the end. And when we know that it is a tool and simply use it as one of the tools instead of it ruining our lives, it's ruling our lives, we still need to be in control. We still need to be able to work with technology to get the benefit, but not lose our sense of who we are, which is kind of what we're doing right now. And that's
Beautiful.
where we need to become aware.
Beautiful. Now, when we come back from a quick break, we will continue our conversation with Dr. Reep and discuss more about the solution on how to effectively juggle work-life balance and come out as a winner. I'm sure many would love to figure out the best way to accomplish this very complex task. Stay tuned. Message from the universe. When hard challenges are really easy to overcome, it will all seem far easier when you keep in mind all of the time that it's supposed to be easy. Everything. That was pretty easy. Now, challenges are easy to solve because of your thoughts. You decide the path you want to take when solving a problem. It will either be easy or extremely hard. When being confronted with a new challenge, something that you have never faced in the past, it can catch you by surprise and bring you in a panic mode. Your heart rate increases, your stress level hits the roof, you sweat heavily, your mind is blurry, and so much more. You hate being in this stage of stress that you rush to look for a solution to get yourself out of this nasty feeling and fail to consider better option if you would have just taken the time to breathe and relax. By slowing down, you allow yourself to thoroughly study the problem and look for the best optimal solution that will meet all your expectations. Yes, it might require you to keep your problem around a little bit longer, but that's fine. You won't see it as a drastic challenge once you have analyzed every possible option. Take it easy, and I'm sure that you are smart enough to tackle every life challenges that are thrown your way on a daily basis. Now, to learn more about the universe, be sure to catch my show, The Happiness Journey, right here on MCM. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm here talking with Dr. Serena Reep, the author of Work-Life Balance is Dead. I would agree that the title of the book may be a shock to all of you, but I agree wholeheartedly because I myself feel like I can't really find a balance between both. I am a workaholic, and my wife can attest to that. And she has to take me away from my work with the jaws of life. You know, the big mechanic plier to open car doors after a huge accident. And sometimes she fails at that. So, Doc, what are the solutions?
Well, I think before we talk about the solution, we need to talk about what the problem is.
Agreed. So let's start with the problem.
There's a myth that when you're at work, you're not living. And when you're living your life, you're not working. And this dichotomy itself, balancing this work with life, is where the problem is. And that's a tremendously doing disservice to this whole concept of life.
Okay.
Ultimately, life is what we all should be concerned about. Work is a piece of life. It's not an equal component to be juggling with.
Okay.
So when you start with the question, the wrong question, how to balance work and life, you'll end up with the kinds of solutions that most people have given, which is, think about the most important things in your life. Maybe pick out 3 or 4 or 5 different things that are important to you, and then put them on a calendar and say, I'm going to do this from here, and this is going to be done during these hours or these days, and what have you. So you are dichotomizing or trichotomizing your life into little pieces of the puzzle. Then all you have to do is then put them together, and voila, you've got life. But it doesn't really work that way, because there is a glue that puts all these pieces together and connects them with life. And that is what is missing when you think about work-life balance as having some time for work, sometimes for life, sometimes for friends, family, and vacations, and all these other things that you want to do. That's the myth that creates this big problem.
Okay.
And so what is the truth? What is the answer? How do we look at it before we think about how to solve the problem? In my opinion, personal and professional opinion, is that we need to have a different paradigm. We need to have a paradigm shift in the way we are thinking about work-life balance.
Okay.
Ultimately, life comes first, foremost, and last. And everything else has to coalesce around that main thing. So how do we arrive at that? Most people don't spend any amount of time thinking about who are they? What are they about? What do they want to achieve in life? And instead think of mechanically balancing their work with their life. But they forget that work-life balance is a means. It's not an end in itself. Okay. Just doing some mechanical balancing of your work life with your personal life isn't going to get you to where you ultimately want to go to. And this is what I found out through my research as well as from my own personal experiences, that you have to ask a question differently in order to get the answer. And that is, who am I? What am I here for? What brings me joy? What creates happiness in my life? When you start looking at the question of work-life balance from this perspective, all of a sudden, things become a lot clearer. We then approach from the standpoint of, what are my values? What are my things that I want to stand for in life? What legacy do I want to leave? How do I want to be known for when I no longer exist in this world? Then the whole concept of life becomes higher priority than work. I'm not saying you shouldn't be thinking about work as an important priority, because ultimately we all need to pay the bill.
Yes, obviously.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that decides and rules your entire life. And that's where we make that problem. Most of us spend so much time thinking, working, and then thinking even more about work, even when we are not working, that we forget who we are, what we want out of life, where we can go to have greater sense of purpose, satisfaction, and passion. These are the things that make us alive. Not just live a life that is devoid of any joy and happiness and purpose and passion. So when we start there, when we take that as the truth, then we begin to see the remedy for what ails us.
So everyone who's actually always looking for to go on vacation or to leave work, would you say that they're not happy what they're doing? They have to kind of redefine who they are as a person to see if what I'm doing today as my job, I need to see if I'm really passionate about it. Mm-hmm. I need to see if I love it. If they don't love it, they have to ask themselves the same question that you said, which is, what am I here for? Mm-hmm. What is my passion? What makes me happy? So would you agree that this may be the case, that they do not know how to, or they're too afraid actually to ask themselves that question?
Absolutely. You really hit it, the nail on the head. We spend so much time balancing a lot of these little pieces of our life that we forget to ask that question. So starting there is the best place to be, is to ask that question. And yes, most people are afraid to ask the question, who am I? Why am I here on the face of this earth? What makes me happy? But there's nothing to be really feared by asking that question, even though I can certainly understand that it seems like too philosophical, it seems too disparately different and farther away from our everyday living. But it's not, because everything that we do, everything that we are, in order for us to fulfill ourselves, move forward in our life, we need to answer that question first. And once we do that, I think other pieces will come into place, and then they will have a better sense of meaning, better sense of satisfaction to all of us. We all have a purpose, and it may very well be something as simple as, I want to raise my children in a better environment than I do right now. Okay. Or I'm an author, I want to write that book to make a difference in other people's lives. Or I am the manager of this major corporation, or I am an entrepreneur who does this work that I'm passionate about. It doesn't matter. Every one of these things is equally acceptable, an equally important contribution that we can make in our lives. Just because I said you have to design your purpose and your passion in life, it's not a scary thing. It's simply a matter of spending the time necessary to figure out who you are, where you want to go, and what you want to do. Once you do that, then you can organize your life. You can put those pieces together in a way that it gels better. It also gives you a sense of satisfaction and self-actualization, which is so important to all of us, whether we think of that as a word that's too big to talk about, or we do that in our everyday life anyway.
It's done by default, like, finding reaching your highest potential. It's something that people are striving, but yet don't know how to do it.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. They don't know how to get there, but the most important thing is, at least if you start with the question, you're closer to getting to the answer than if you don't even address the issue and simply try to mechanically balance your life or your work or other pieces of your life. So my point is to start with finding out who you are, what you're going to do in life, and what you're about, and then manage your life according to that passion. Because once you do that, you will not be unhappy with your work. You will not be unhappy with your vacation. You will not be unhappy with other things that you're doing. So go there first, and then at that point, you have arrived. Anything you do and everything you do is related to who you are, so you will always end up being happy, satisfied, and achieving your greatest potential.
Beautiful. Wow. Now that's all the time we have for today, and I wish we could have had more time to discuss this very interesting subject. I will certainly bring her back for a part 2 interview to cover more of these complex challenges. Now I want to thank Dr. Serena Reep for sharing her experience in writing this book, but especially for its nature and content. Now, if you'd like to purchase the book, Work-Life Balance is Dead, it will be coming out soon at a retailer near you. Now, I'm sure it will also be available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Now, we hope you've enjoyed our show today and looking forward to having you back watching our future episode. Now, do not forget to check out our YouTube channel by searching ProAce International and look for the happiness journey inside our channel. Now, here are concluding words of wisdom. Quick lesson in Quantum Physics 101. The present is defined by a confluence of your thoughts, guided and restricted by your beliefs. The future becomes the present when your belief changes. Time measures how much effort you require to change your thoughts, and space shows exactly what you're now thinking about. And therein, you see that the one universal, immovable, unifying equation that sums up all things physical and metaphysical is thought become things, which is all you really need to think about. Thought become things. Again, thanks to all for watching our show. My name is Dr. Dan Amzalag, and have yourself a wonderful day.